Hi, QLR1000 students. I thought I'd record a very quick video to go over the homework assignment. So hi, I'm Jason. If you haven't met me before, I'll turn off the video just so it's not as distracting. Okay, so I did post the PowerPoint a bit late this week. I apologize, but I highly encourage you to go through it. The main learning objectives of this chapter are to really use Excel, select the best charts and graphs for presenting certain data sets, right? And so this goes through many really bad examples of charts, what not to use. But then I hope I'm not making you busy. It gives helpful suggestions on taking, say, this chart on the left and making it a little more readable. There are step-by-step instructions for many of these things in Excel. We are going to use the snowfall data, by the way, when to use a scatter plot, etc. So highly encourage you to go through all that. Okay, so we do have an assignment this week, and I thought it'd be helpful for both my on-ground classes and online to record a little bit about how to accomplish the assignment. So the prior homework packet was fairly extensive, and at this point where we are in the course, I don't want you memorizing facts. I'd rather just be just make sure that you have some confidence in working in Excel. Some of you may already have experience in this, which is great. It's always good to have a refresher. The homework packet is quite simple. We've got two data sets here. And so what I'd like you to do is open the data from Canvas, and I'll show you how to do that. Develop a chart. So you're going to have to really think about what's the best way to represent this data. Maybe you select the pie chart and it's completely unreadable. And so you have to go through and select different chart types. There's always the delete button if one doesn't quite work out. And then further expand on it a bit. So don't just take the default Excel gives you, maybe look at the range and make it tightened up a little bit. I'll show an example of that. So your graph's more easily readable. You could add some color, some labels, etc. To turn it in, either I typically use Excel and then I copy and paste into Word because I'm writing a report. So you could write a short narrative and then paste your document. Same thing if I'm giving a presentation, I'll start in Excel. I rarely email a colleague or a boss my Excel spreadsheet and say, here you go, you figure it out, right? Usually I bring it into PowerPoint for a presentation, add titles, description. So not a huge requirement for this assignment, but that's an option. However, you can also just send me your Excel workbook, totally acceptable. And then there's some questions here, 1 and 2, that I want you to answer. And you can just type those right into a cell in Excel. A cell in Excel, funny. So for colleges, you're going to select a chart or several charts, and then tell me why you selected that as the best method to tell the story of the data. Same thing with brand names. Select a chart, maybe a couple of charts to best represent it. And then why did you select the chart as the best method? So let's quickly go through a couple. Snowfall is very, very close to the example of colleges that you have. Here you have snowfall for these different cities. There is a PowerPoint page that also goes over some of this. And whenever I see two data sets side by side like this, two data attributes, sorry, where I want to see if there's a relationship, that usually indicates scatter plot. Doing a bar chart of these different variables probably wouldn't be too helpful side by side. They're different values, snowfall in inches and temperature in Fahrenheit. And so what you want to do is select your range. So I'm just going to go down and select this whole data range. I'm going to go to Insert, and then Excel will either recommend a chart for you, which is very handy. And many of you who hopefully watched the Excel tutorial in week 1 understand this. But I know I want a scatter plot, so I'm going to go here and pick a scatter plot. You can highlight these to see what they might look like, but I just want a basic scatter plot. So there you go. So now the next step would be, is this data telling us a story? Well, I think so. it's fairly obvious. Well, it's not, because you could add labels that show that this is temperature at the bottom and um, average snowfall in inches on the vertical axis. However, it does look like if you have more cold averages at certain cities that you get more snowfall. Makes sense. However, this is scrunched up. I don't like this. The dots are too close. There's a couple of methods. One is to click this chart elements button and navigate to the axes. Or I believe we can just come here, right click on the axis. I just right clicked on the number 40 and then say format axis. And now I have some options. Oops, let me do that again. There we go. So my minimum range seems like nobody's below 35 degrees. So let's tighten this up. And my highest data point, 70 degrees. So let's make this 70. Makes it a bit more readable for the end user. So that's one example. The second example is state population. So this one is going to be very difficult to graph. If I just go in and grab this data, oh, and by the way, you can do certain things like sort. So if I wanted to come up here, go to data, I'm constantly sorting data in Excel. And you can do multiple levels. I only have 2 attributes here, but let's say you had year also. You could sort by year, then by state, then by population. I'm just going to select population and say I really want it to be smallest to largest, and it flips it. Pretty amazing. So I'm going to insert a recommended chart, see what Excel comes up with. It's a lot of data to show. You know, in this situation, if I was forced to use this data set, I'd probably go with a column chart, try and get in as many as I could. Still, it's an extremely large data set. And you may encounter a situation where it's just not practical to map it. If I have 100 different cities, it's just not going to look good on a map. I may want to consolidate. Perhaps I want to do it by state, might be a little more manageable, maybe not. And quite often you might get into a position where you just say, I can't chart this, and I'm going to just include the data set in my presentation. Or you could do a subset too. You could put it into cohorts, groups of 10, like ranges. And this would be a horrible choice, right? I don't think anybody would be able to interpret this chart. So quickly jumping home to the homework. So what you're going to want to do is I have them listed here, colleges and brand names, these data sets. If I just select on colleges, it's not going to be too helpful because it's just going to give me a preview of the data in Canvas. I could try and copy and paste it. It's not going to easily copy and paste for a variety of reasons. However, if I close this, if I go back to assignment 2, what you're going to want to do is download it. So there's a little download arrow next to each one. Download the file. Depending on what browser and operating system you have, it's going to put it usually in your downloads folder or show you where you put it. Highly recommend you copy and paste it to where you save your homework assignments, perhaps rename it, and then open it up. I find that's easier to do that housekeeping first rather than just opening it here from the web browser and then later having to do a file save as. So download the homework assignments, and then the first one is colleges. I'm convinced there's a story here. Whenever I look at data, I want to analyze it. I want to say, what is this trying to tell me? Is there a correlation between tuition and fees and when a university was founded? Is there a correlation or relationship between percent graduates? If it's the older school, like Cleary was what, 1883, I think. So maybe we have a higher graduation rate because it's older, maybe not. Or is there a relationship between how much tuition is in the graduation? So I'll give you a sneak peek. Again, this is your data set for the homework. And if I say insert scatter plot, it does look like there's a relation. Just glancing at this, I can see that on the bottom, the higher the tuition, the graduation rate creeps up near 100%. So I guess I should recommend to President Allen of Cleary University that Cleary should double our tuition to increase our graduation rate? Probably not. There's probably another page 2 to the story with why these are higher and have a different graduation rate. However, that's what the data is telling me. So feel free to map several of these based on the attributes. Perhaps you want to add some labels, some color, that type of thing. And then finally, for brands values, the PowerPoint suggests a certain type of a graphic for this. And what I suggested in my on-ground class is perhaps even expand on this. Here we have 6 companies under technology and only 1 under the other 4 categories. Perhaps under automotive, you could add another column just by saying insert and putting in automotive and then find Ford. And either Google or estimate some revenue. Doesn't have to be real data. But in this case, the recommended chart, I believe, is under, well, I'm not sure now. Let's do a recommended rather than me hunt for it. Oh yeah, one of these, a tree map. Almost as bad as a pie chart. My eye still can't differentiate the different sizes of the boxes, but the boxes should correlate, or they do correlate with revenue. And so the larger the box, the higher the revenue. Color coded nicely, so I can color code by industry group. Obviously the tech is in blue, but play around with this. See if you can come up with your own creative chart and then tell me why you selected it. So hopefully that was helpful, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions. And I look forward to seeing your assignments. Thank you.